a very warm welcome to the 155th Security Thought Leadership webinar. As you know, we're here on Thursdays at this time, where we tackle a subject of relevance to the security world. And the idea of thought leadership is that we think today about what's going on and we would critique it in order that we might get a better type of security provision tomorrow. And the topic this week is one that I think will interest many. Well, I know it interests many because people have written to us in advance and expressed an interest. Mentoring, does it work? Is the security sector good at it? If it is good at it, why is it not more commonplace? It's sometimes presented as an unqualified good. It's a great thing to do, but is it? We'll be tackling these and many other issues in our panel today. In a minute, I'm going to introduce our three panelists, all of them who are experienced and experts in this area. And I'm going to ask them all to introduce themselves. And once they've done that, I'll ask them each for their opening statement, 3 minutes, where they get to say what they think about this subject matter. And then after that, I'll come to you and I'll invite you to join in the discussion. So get ready to ask questions using the question and answer button at the bottom of your screen. By all means, chat to one another on the chat button, but questions on the question and answer button at the bottom of your screen. Without further ado then, let's get going and let's meet our panel. And first of all, go to Claire. Claire, can you introduce yourself, please?
I can, thanks Martin. Hi everybody, I'm Claire Humble. I'm a retired senior police officer both in the UK and New Zealand. I'm also the former head of safety, security and facilities at Teesside University, and now I'm a business owner. My business is called Nuology and we supply training and consultancy for the security sector. So it's really great for me to be here today and thanks for the opportunity, Martin.
Oh, you're very welcome, Claire. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Let's go and meet Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo, please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Martin. I'm Yolanda. I work as the Head of Security Operations for Virgin Media O2, where I also sit on the Women's Network Forum, advocating for women in STEM and women in technology. I'm also an ACES member. I sit on the Physical Steering Committee for the International Physical Steering Committee. Well, that came out well. And I'm also an IFBO advisory board member. And alongside that, I chair the subcommittee for ED&I. And that means we just keep ourselves very honest with ED&I throughout all of our activities. And it's nice to be here with John and Claire today.
Thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate that. Well, I'm sure we're going to pick up on the EDI issue on this subject matter in due course. Let's now go and meet our third panelist over in Stevenage. John, please introduce yourself, John.
How you doing all? Thanks for having me today. I'm John Sephton. I'm the Key Account Director for Bidvest Noonan. I've been in the security industry for 20 plus years now. So I'm a security careerist. I've come from the ground up. I also sit on the board of the Security Institute and I'm on the mentoring platform on there. And yeah, that's about me really in a nutshell.
Thank you, John. Really appreciate it. Without further ado then, just to remind you, you can ask questions, use the question and answer button at the bottom of your screen, get those questions in early. Meanwhile, let's hear from our first panelist. Claire, your opening statement, please.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, everybody. So look, I'm a great proponent of mentoring. I've experienced great and poor results being a mentor and a mentee. So I look forward to sharing some of those experiences with you today if I do get the opportunity. But look, Harvard's Business Review in 2020 suggested that strong mentors are really important for everybody. And if you get a strong mentor, it can have really great results, rapid advancement, higher salaries, higher job and career satisfaction, better self-esteem. Now that's all well and good if you get a strong mentor, but I think the Achilles heel for an organisation is having mediocre mentoring, which as a consequence, it has bad results for the mentee. I think one of the problems with mentors is a lot of the time they're too busy, they're sometimes disinterested, and there's a big lack of competence in my experience in what actually a mentor does. And in my opinion, poor mentoring can actually be worse than no mentoring at all. So in my opinion, what makes a good mentor? Well, I guess mentors need to be generous listeners. They need to listen to what the mentee is saying. be good at affirmations, provide challenging feedback, have insider information, and that's one of the big things I'd like to talk to today if we can. Be able to network, have visibility, and be an intentional role model. Be a professional socializer, and be able to advocate on behalf of the mentee. They also, and it's really important, to have emotional intelligence, show empathy, be genuine, and be approachable. And I think mentors must have these skills because they're very difficult to teach. One of the things that I believe is that men within the security sector are probably the answer to mentorship and diversity growing within the sector. And men need to be excellent mentors for women. Men need to step forward and deliberately and effectively mentor women. We need more diversity within the security sector, and we need a culture where women can thrive, lean in and assume leading roles within the sector. And I think we're only going to be able to bring that about if men are willing to come forward and mentor women. Most of the mentors that I've had have been men. And when you look at the environment of the security sector as it sits now, notwithstanding the fact that it needs to diversify more, we're only going to be able to do that if men come forward and help young, talented women grow and develop into the new leaders within the sector. And I've got lots of things that I'd like to chat to you today about improving the security sector, being able to identify talent early, change perceptions of culture, invest in young talent, provide industry relevant training. But I guess underpinning all that is to be able to identify and provide really strong mentors for men and women within the sector so we can grow and diversify and move forward. One of the big things I think about lack of talent within the sector is we have a culture or a perceived culture that's quite negative, particularly in the security operations or security guarding sector. And we need to do more to be able to improve that culture or the perception of the culture. And I think being able to have strong advocates for the sector through mentorship and through growing talent is the way forward. So I guess I'll stop there because I don't want to hog the mic, but I'm very happy to expand on those later on.
And I'm sure we will. Thank you very much indeed. Don't forget to get your questions in using the question and answer button at the bottom of your screen, as many already have. And let's move over to Yolanda now. Yolanda, your opening statement, please.
Hi, yes. Well, look, I was mentored, but I think in hindsight, I wished I'd identified my mentor a lot earlier. My mentor, I remember we first sat down and he said to me, what are you looking for? And I didn't know the answer. What do you want to be? I don't know. What makes you happy? I'm not sure. And I just had no answer. And together we were able to kind of, I could describe this like being in a car, going down a road, and you're getting hit by loads of weather. Windscreen wipers are going crazy. And it's like someone handing you a map saying, take this route. It's a lot easier. And I genuinely wish that I'd met him a lot sooner. I actually think, you know, he knows this. He knows that I'm super grateful for how he interjected and disrupted positively my career. And I think he knows that I wouldn't be in the job of my dreams, living my best life, if it wasn't for meeting him at the time that I did and just having me steered on the right path. I conducted a LinkedIn poll because I knew that I was going to be here in this webinar. And I asked the question about how people felt about being mentored. 40% of the respondents said that they'd never been mentored. 45% said that they had had a mentor. And 9% said that they would like to have a mentor, indicating they'd never had one. And 5% said that they wanted to be mentored again. So quite clearly, those people I determined who had been mentored definitely saw the value and wanted more because they could see how it had enhanced their career. So I think in relation to mentoring, we've got to think about personal optimization. Mentoring is liquid. And I think what makes a good mentor? I think you have to determine almost what your needs are. I think you have to ask yourself real questions in the way that I was asked real questions. And it's a good exploratory relationship. I was lucky, and I'm currently negotiating my next new mentor as we speak. Can't wait for that. I'll hand you over.
Thank you very much indeed. Excellent. And I'm looking forward to discussing some of those issues as we proceed through the webinar. Don't forget, use the question and answer at the bottom of your screen, please, audience, and we'll come to you as soon as we've heard from our third panelist. John, let's hear your opening statement, please.
I'm not sure what to say anymore, Martin. The ladies have said it all. I can just say, well, yeah, what they've said. Well, mentoring to me, it's very much needed in the security sector, very much needed. Coming up from the ground floor as I did, there wasn't many opportunities for mentoring. And then the advice you get, you sort of sifting through a river of, is it right, is it wrong, what do I listen to? And then you have to cherry pick the bits you like and the bits you think are going to be more beneficial to you. But when you're young in the industry, you're not sure what that looks like. And mentoring can be a waste of time in that way. And some people they see it as a tick box exercise for CPD. And when you do ask for mentoring, sometimes you get a lot of eye rolling because it's too much effort to have a half-an-hour conversation with you when you're first starting out. But I think the mentoring in the security industry, I think a lot of people are reluctant to go and approach the senior people in the industry for advice, because we give everyone grandiose titles and I think they get put on a pedestal really easily as well. But saying that, if you get a decent workplace, people become mentors through just by default. And it's usually the people who are sticking their hand up on the sites and in the companies and saying, yeah, how do I do this? How do I do that? And as soon as you show a bit of knowledge and a bit of drive, then the people who do want to mentor, they latch onto you and they do want to show you. In the security industry, I think there's a lot of bravado, especially within the men folk of the industry. And I don't know many that are actually mentored by women in there. I mean, we touched on, mentioned mentor women, but women have got, in the industry, they've got a lot more emotional intelligence skills. They've got a lot more soft skills that men should learn. But there's a lot of ego out there to stop men approaching other people, and especially women, for mentoring opportunities. I think it's just, I took the route to mentoring because I wanted to pass on the knowledge, because I've actually, scraped myself up from the bottom and learned from my past mistakes. And mentoring, I just find that if I can show someone the way and not make the same mistakes, they can exceed what I've achieved a lot quicker. But you shouldn't stick to one mentor. You should have 3 or 4 mentors, all with different skill sets. So you've got a broad shopping basket of people you can go to for different areas. But the industry as well, people don't make time for officers on the ground floor because of business constraints, because of their own personal issues, and they just forget, I think, what it's like to be on the shop floor and what it's like to progress. And I think it's sad in the industry now, where people feel threatened for the people young in the industry are coming up, and they just feel threatened by the jobs, so they don't want to show them anything. They don't want to pass on the information. I'm not saying it is for everybody. I'm not saying everyone does it, but you do come across it from time to time. And until we change that mindset, we'll be fighting upstream, as it were, swimming upstream. But we'll get there. And the Security Institute, they've got the great mentoring platform. You can register yourself on as a mentee and a mentor. And that's where I found my mentors. And then through the 20 years I've been in the industry.
John, thank you very much indeed. Well, excellent. And already the questions are flooding in. We have got a lot of interest. So Claire, I'm going to come to you first. And it's a question from Simon Chan. And I think it is a good question to ask about the nature of it. Are there some key principles here that one must get across, Claire, in mentoring? Or is this more of just see how it goes, find out what you need, and we'll adjust accordingly? It's Claire first, and I'll come to Yolanda.
Yeah, it's a good question. You're right. I think the the setting needs to be right for a successful mentor-mentee relationship. And by that, I mean that we need to make time for the mentor and the mentee to get together. They need to agree a pathway, and most importantly, they need to agree an outcome so we can measure how successful the relationship has been. And I think many institutions and organisations like the concept of mentorship and encourage mentorship, but then they don't create time for those relationships to blossom. And they don't create the time to blossom during the work time anyway. So I think it's about creating an atmosphere where we can grow really strong mentors and mentees and show that successful mentorship can happen, particularly within the workplace, but just not within the workplace as well. I know certainly when I was in the police, I had mentors within the police, and I also had external mentors, particularly as I increased up the ranks, and I found that very insightful, because I was almost institutionalized within the police and the policing family, and how we did our business and how we grew internally. But that wasn't going to help me when I left the police, and it became increasingly important for me to have a mentor outside the institution, if you like, as well, so I could understand the broader concept of mentor and mentee. So I think it's a really positive thing to have. But like we've said, there's a huge Achilles heel with people not being particularly good mentors, or there's a perception that successful people will be successful mentors. And I don't think that's the case at all either. And perhaps we can get onto that later on. But I guess that's the answer to that question from me. Thanks, Martin.
Thanks very much indeed. Yolanda, your thoughts on this?
I think we're missing something in mentoring, to be honest. I think, we spend time and money on makeup. I mean, John, looking good, going to the gym, all those sorts of things. But do we really spend, the right amount of time treating our brains or looking after our careers? And so I think, if you're going to look at how to architect getting a mentor, I think you have to look at memberships. I think it's very hard, and it certainly was hard for me. I look at my security career, pre-membership, post-membership, and they're two completely different careers.
You mean membership of associations, do you?
Yeah, membership associations,
okay.
Yeah, of which there are many, and most of us here are members of at least more than one. And I think we can all testify to the fact that being in a membership puts you with other like-minded people, and you will naturally gravitate towards people that you can learn from, that are esteemed, and you're also going to naturally, by natural selection, be around the most knowledgeable people who can support and influence your career. So I think definitely consider memberships if you are looking for mentorship, and make that, which can be complex, difficult and hard, much easier.
Thank you very much indeed. I wonder if I come to you, John, and Sandy Davis has asked the question, at what point do we consider getting a mentor? I mean, is it the case that the mentee needs to get ready first before approaching someone or for accepting an approach? Does it vary, or is there a good rule of thumb? John?
Right away. I mean, don't delay in getting a mentor, but you need to figure out what it is you want mentoring on. Yeah, like you said earlier, I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my job, and a mentor can only mentor once you know. I mean, unless they work with you closely and they can see where you need improvement, you need to have that inside look at yourself first, and then decide, I want to be mentored in finance, I want to be mentored in security, or whatever it is, because having these conversations with the mentors and might bring out other areas that they can help with. So, but don't delay, and just don't be afraid to ask people questions, and if they mind being a mentor, but it is a two-way process, and you have to both want to do the process rather than being thrust upon you. But don't shy away. If I had any advice, it'd be don't shy away and just ask somebody, and just ask anybody who you see, who you look up to. If they're in a position where you want to be, yeah, by all means, go and talk to them.
And thank you very much indeed. Yolanda, let me ask you the same question. I mean, do you agree with John that don't hang about, get one straight away? It strikes me from some of the things you said, you better get ready first.
Well, I knew I needed help, but I didn't know where to get it from. And I wasn't necessarily rubbing shoulders with the right people in the first years of my career. And it was only when I joined a security membership organization that I suddenly, it was like the stage opened and the lights came on and I could hear clearer. It was just a transformation for me. And within that first year of being in that membership, I was having super engaging conversations with people, and I was starting to realize there was better out there, more opportunities, and all the energy that I had could be channeled into something. And so it was just by chance meeting and chatting to the right individual. We agreed to have an offline conversation where we would meet up during office hours in times that we could both make. And we started to sort of map out a direction that I could go in that could potentially authenticate what I'd already done and give me a chance to not just plan my present on the past, but plan my present on the future.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much indeed. Claire, I want to come to you next, and I've got a question from John Reeves, in effect picking up on something that you've mentioned in your opening statement. And do you think that men are reticent to be involved in mentoring women? And why should they not mentor women? I mean, what's the logic? What's the purpose behind you being so emphatic? And what's the process of involving new recruits in mentoring, in other words, as an attraction to the industry? So a few questions there, but that men women thing first, Claire, because I want to make sure we tackle that.
Yeah, okay, so in my opinion, if the security sector is going to continue to grow and thrive, when you look at the whole sector in its entirety, it's largely made up of white males. And that's nothing that's, it's not a huge problem that it's made up of white males. But, we often hear the terminology pale male still within the security sector. And personally, I find that quite disrespectful on behalf of white men that have made a career out of the security industry. And I think rather than making men the problem, I think we should make them the solution, or make them help be part of the solution. And there's so many knowledgeable men within the security sector that can help women. And frankly, there's not enough women to help each other. So we need to be finding our really talented men and empowering them to want to come forward and mentor women. And certainly my experience in the police, and of course, when I was in the police, there was many more men than women. If you didn't get mentored by a man, you didn't get mentored at all. And it's a really great relationship, and I think it's quite relatable. But some men are not confident around mentoring women, in my opinion, and I don't really know why that is. But I talked about earlier, having emotional intelligence, and it's really important to have emotional intelligence as a mentor. And perhaps men feel they don't have that emotional intelligence or connect with women because of different life experiences. And on the second question around young talent, I take Yolanda and John's point about being part of an institution or an association, and I'm a member of the Security Institute. But I think if we're going to identify and grow young talent within the security sector, we need to get to young people before they get into these associations. Because certainly to get into the Security Institute, you have to have a certain amount of experience or expertise. And a lot of our young talent doesn't have that expertise because they're new to the industry. And I think that's where leadership comes in. And we need to have really good leaders within the security sector that are looking out for young talent and rising stars, and picking them out and having a conversation with them and finding them a mentor, or asking them if they want to mentor, and engaging with them early within their experience of the sector. Because if not, we fall foul of losing our young talent, because they don't feel invested in, and they don't feel that they've got a future, and people aren't talking to them about their futures. So my personal opinion is we need to get in earlier than that, and it's down to leadership and leaders identifying young talent and having the conversations.
Okay, thank you very much. John, just on this point that Claire was talking about there, about using mentorship as a form of attracting people to the sector, that strikes me as highly desirable, asking a lot when people are already struggling to get mentors in the first place. Shouldn't we just be concentrating on the people in the industry already and getting them sorted first? John?
You can, but then you're missing out on a whole pool of a whole new band of people coming into the industry. And now if people outside don't know what the industry's like, they only go by what they see on TV, which isn't very good. You get Hollywood and you get the security officer, and he's always dopey, and he's always unconscious most of the time, and he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, and nothing further from the truth in actual fact. And when you talk to young people about joining the industry, you say, well, what's your idea of a security officer? Well, they're standing on Tesco's doors, but they don't realize the security industry is much more than that. It's the cyber, it's the physical, it's everything else. It's the man guarding. It's just so varied, and we do need to concentrate on the young people who are in at the minute to show them there is a route, but we have to show them that route and what it is to be a success within the industry, which if you show some aptitude and you show some drive, you can actually make a decent career out of it. I think people give up when they get stuck on a single man site somewhere and they don't ever see the managers for 6 to 8 months, and all the drive that they had when they first started, it just goes, or they get the disgruntled employee on there who's been on site 25 years, never moved, and that's their mentor by default, because that's all they see. So yeah, as managers and seniors in the industry, we need to get out and see the people. And I know the Institute are doing a lot of work with Ernest Young with their youth. And I took a mentee from there, a young lady called Isa, and she was doing cybersecurity, and she's doing really well for herself now. She's doing sixth form, and she talks really highly about the security industry. But it's breaking that stigma of the security industry with the younger generation, and then try and get them in as young as they can, and hopefully one day be one of those industries that people want to get into from school. One day, he says.
John, let's hope so. That might take us in a different direction. Let's say thank you. Now, let me come back to Yolanda. Yolanda, I've got a question here from you and Grant, which hits at the heart of what separates a mentor from a manager from a supervisor? In other words, can we begin to get some sort of identification of a job role or a clearly identifiable description of what a mentor is and how it differs from this manager or supervisor role? Yolanda.
So I think you've got a type of formal mentoring agreement, or maybe an informal mentoring agreement, and they can both work. They can both be very successful, and they both have their own settings, goals, objectives, and growth opportunities. So, for example, in my workplace, I've identified some very, very good talent, and it's an absolute waste for that talent to keep that talent all in their own one body. So I want them to share that talent with other people, and I've kind of encouraged a culture that, they will feel really good doing that, because it's super satisfying being an asset and knowing you're knowledgeable and being there to support and help others. So it's all about encouraging a good internal culture for peer-to-peer mentoring. I've introduced a system today at work, a Muddy system, which we all know is a mental buddy for new people who come in. And it's just nice for them to have someone on another shift who they can go to and bounce questions off and ask ideas and things like that. So we've got a senior development program going where I've identified individuals ready for promotion, and we're putting them through an opportunity to be in the role and be mentored in that role. That's 3 workplace mentoring programs I've got in place at the moment, and then I've got others to introduce. So I think all you've got to do really is look at what you want to achieve, and I think use your assets. Use them well.
Thank you very much indeed. I mean, it's that strikes me as a good answer. It's not the doubt that's important. It's just really being clear what it is and what the expectations are. John, just want to come back to you on a very quick point from Conrad Weinhert, who's asking about how do you get involved as a mentor. You made the point that you were a bit lost on your side. I guess it's equally possible you could want to give help and don't know what to do. I suppose contacting your association and asking would be one way. John?
Yeah, no, you could do. I mean, you actually surprise yourself in the mentor relationship, because you realise that you know more than you actually thought you did. when the questions are asked, and it is quite nerve-wracking when you first get your first mentee. But yeah, I mean, to go into the professional associations like ACES, Security Institute, IPSA and whatnot, it's like I said before, Martin, it's just going out there and just being brave and asking the questions of the people there. I mean, you've got LinkedIn, and that's swarming with industry knowledge. You know, you can send a message on there or comment on some of the posts or join the institute and be a part of the mentoring platform.
Thank you very much indeed. Important one now, actually. Thank you. Claire, David Gill's got a question. It's something that you touched on in indirectly perhaps, but David's put it as a specific question. And it's what's the key characteristics of a good mentor, and how do you measure success, and for that matter, failure? Claire, I'll come to you and ask for a brief comment from Yolanda as well afterwards.
Yeah, I think, well, in my experience anyway, some of the key characteristics are being able to listen, and listening is a definite skill. And I think that's probably one of the main traits of a mentor, actually listening to your mentee and hearing what they're saying. But I think you do need to be able to provide challenging feedback as well. So, you know, you need to be confident in yourself as a mentor to be able to challenge what's being said and to push back and to give a contrary view. I think you need to have insider information. And I say this because when I was in the police, I sought out a mentor, but what I wanted to do is make sure that mentor was influential within the organisation, was going to look out for opportunities for me. So I think you do need to look for people that are going to be able to help you, help raise your profile, help look for opportunities, help you network. And that certainly is the best relationships I had, both as a mentor and as a mentee, was when I felt that somebody was championing me, either as a mentor or I was as a mentee, or I was championing them as a mentor. So I do think you need to have some visibility and some influence within the organisation if your mentor is within the organisation. But I think you also need a role model. You need to be able to look at the person that's your mentor and want to be like them. So you need to be that person within the organisation that people really respect and role model. And I think when we talk about, again, emotional intelligence is really important. So you need to be able to be approachable, be genuine, and show empathy and listen. And that's the skills that I think are really important.
What does success look like? Very briefly, if you wouldn't mind, I want to get some more questions in.
Yeah, it's really difficult, isn't it? And I think before you start on your relationship, and when we talked about how you engage with a mentor, you need to decide what success looks like for yourselves. So what is the outcome that you're looking for from this relationship? And I think if you don't achieve that, you've got to be able to reflect on why, and there may be reasons for that. But my opinion of success is being able to achieve the outcome that the mentee wanted. And then, you know, word gets around that you're a great mentor, and other people come to you. And not every relationship is going to be successful, Martin. They're not. You know, we know that because everybody would have them and everybody would be brilliant. But I think it's about undertaking to agree what success looks like at the outset so that you can achieve that going forward.
Okay, thank you. I mean, on this point, Yolanda, this point about what is success and failure, I guess the problem is there a danger that if this fails, it could have very negative consequences for you? I mean, it's all very well saying pick someone senior, they'll guide you, Yolanda, but what happens if they don't like you, or it goes bad in some ways? This could have devastating negative effects, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be matched well. If you aren't matched well, it isn't going to be working out, because lots of people have very different personality traits. You look at Myers-Briggs, for example, lots of people have different work personality traits. I think natural mentors just have this little superpower that they just want to pay it forward, and they can't help themselves. It's like they literally are wearing their mentor pants outside their trousers. You know, they're super good at it. They've got great energy. They attract people who want to listen to them. There's a natural charisma there. And I think that's the kind of mentor we should all be looking for. Somebody who just wants to just give you all of the knowledge that you could possibly pack in your little brain and do a better job going forward. I think the other thing as well is, if you're not happy where you're working, find an employer. I've been really impressed with Virgin Media O2. We've got a very mature number of minority groups to join, be a part of wider conversations, especially in relation to diversity and equity. but find an employer that does have a very strong consciousness around investing in their employees and looking at apprenticeship and mentor programs. And you know, then you've got a really conscientious employer who's going to do and provide all of the right platforms for you. I mean, that's pretty much all I can recommend.
Well, the thing is, you see, I mean, Finbar's just added a point about this, about identifying what the key traits are. I guess that if you're new to the sector, the danger is that if you don't go through some sort of accredited process or some sort of process that you're going, like the organisation will look after it, the associations or your employer will look after it. If you just go by someone saying, I'll help you out, there's a danger here that could not be matched in the way that you're suggesting, Yolanda. They can have adverse effects. Would you say, make sure you only go through your employer and only go through an association to protect yourself?
I think you have to just do a bit of homework. It's like you wouldn't get insurance for your car without at least shopping around and looking at what's out there on the market for the best value you can get. A lot of really good mentors want to give their time away for free. And I think it's about how you regard that individual. What is their brand on LinkedIn? What is their key message? How active are they on social media? What are they trying to spread in the word of their own gospel? I think it's natural for us to identify good role models and be attracted to being mentored by them simply because of the professional gravitas they have. I think that's the best place to start. Go with your instincts. And if not, get recommendations, speak to people, ask your boss who has mentored him or her. You look at the look on their face. They won't have told you they've ever had a mentor, but when you ask them, they'll tell you they've had one. Why does everyone keep having a mentor a secret? It should be something we should be really proud to show off.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. John, I've got a question here from Purity Kinanu, and I'm so sorry if I haven't pronounced that right. I'm sure I don't. I'll give it my best shot. What about the danger that the mentee is not proactive? And this can be seen negatively, perhaps, when it really is just a process of not being sure of oneself, being you. I mean, there's a skill set here, isn't there, on the part of the mentor? And if you're a mentee and you haven't shown that you've got that sort of engagement or the right qualities, this could go badly wrong. This could become unsuccessful, and then they are in trouble. John,
you're right. No, you're right, Martin. It can go wrong if the mentee's not willing to put the effort in the work or the comments or the commentary or the conversations you're having with them, and you're always at loggerheads, or you're always, there just seems to be a stale environment around it, then that's the time as a mentor you've got to ask yourself a question: am I right for that person? Is the mentee, will the mentee be better off with someone else? You know, and then it's down to you as an experienced person to know that they might actually be vibing with someone else and become a bit more outgoing. And
of course, on this issue, Becky Lane has asked the point about a mentor being outside the company. And I wonder, just the thought, John, I appreciate it's different, and I appreciate in an ideal world you may get different ones. But there's are you in favour of that? And I guess that adds a real sort of complicating factor in how you find someone meaningful by that route. John, your thought on Becky's question?
Yeah, totally. Go outside the industry, because especially in the man guardian industry, once you've left the site security, once you've left the sites and you enter into account management, your skill set changes. You're no longer responsible for one building. You have to work on more business skills, and to get a decent business mentor outside of the security industry is a very good idea. I mean, why stop there? Go international. Go international. Go find leaders in business in Kenya or Canada or somewhere like that, and just have a conversation with them, because they might have new ideas that you've never even thought of. So yeah, no, totally go outside the industry and find a mentor, but also come back to the industry and find out what you're supposed to be doing.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Interesting answer. I just want to come back to you, Claire, if I might. And Conrad's asked a question about whether we can use Zoom. I mean, whether it can be done virtually. And what about group mentoring sessions? interesting point, perhaps. Claire, your thoughts first.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, particularly over COVID when it's been difficult to have one-to-one conversations with people in person. And I've mentored people virtually throughout the time of COVID, and I've also been mentored and coached through virtual forum during COVID, and it does work. And although we are creatures of wanting to be near to people and see each other and see each other's body language, I think it definitely can happen, and it can help. And I actually think collective mentoring is really helpful as well, because you've got lots of different people's opinion and views and insights and networking. And I think networking is akin to being part of a mentor program as well. So I personally advocate for group mentoring, particularly within a large organization when it's difficult to find really strong mentors. To do a group session is something that I feel is really important, and I would advocate for.
Okay, let me get your thoughts on that, Yolanda. Groups, well, what did you call it? Collective mentoring, group session. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I agree with everything Claire said, but at the moment, because we're holding so many meetings on Teams, I think any meeting I have with any of my team members, I look at every opportunity as a coaching exercise. You know, it's like every meeting we have, there's an opportunity to positively influence, impart good knowledge. When you're taking people on a journey with you, it's best that you kind of share more than retain more. But I also say to anybody, and I've been in this situation, I can remember where I was and how I felt. I wanted to ask somebody, you know, how I could get a mentor once, but I was embarrassed to let people know that I wanted to have a better job and a better career. And for fear of alienating people around me, thinking, oh, wanting a bit more, you know what I mean? And so there is that vibe. So remember, there's always LinkedIn. Anybody who's interested can connect with any of us today on LinkedIn, and we can certainly point people in directions where they can get appropriate supportive guidance. So I would welcome that opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. I'm just going to ask you all one quick question from John Reeves, and it slightly builds on points that others have made about whether someone has to be in the industry or not. Mark Rowe mentioned that. About being eyes and ears, William Dill mentioned that, but it's this question about whether some sort of specific training is needed for a mentor going forward. I mean, should we have a qualification or some sort of accreditation process for mentoring? And look at this big question. You've got 20 seconds each to answering it. John, you first. Give us your best shot. 20 seconds.
No, I don't think you should have a qualification in it, really, because it lacks the personal touch. It will get rid of that personal feel between you and the mentee. And you can get guidance on it, and you should get guidance on being a mentor, but you're going to carve your own style out at the end of the day, and then you and your mentee are going to achieve great things. But to make it clinical, I just think it just defeats the object of the process.
Thank you, John. Claire?
Yeah, I agree with what John said, but actually I think we should go further than and go bigger than that and identify really good mentors within an organisation and almost have master mentors within the industry that we can utilise. Look at involving mentorship with the promotion process. You know, people that are being promoted need to show that they've been great mentors or have got a great track record of mentorship. Hold mentorship workshops, why not? And provide quality mentorships within the workplace. So I'm a massive advocate.
20 seconds. Okay, thank you very much. Yolanda, finally from you, just 20 seconds if you wouldn't mind, we're running out of time.
I saw in the Dummies series, Coaching for Dummies, and I thought, hey, you know, got to start somewhere. There's always an opportunity on social media, in books and study material to find a good mentor. But the mentor that you gravitate to will be the one that you already have identified is ahead of you in your own career track.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed, panel. Look, lots of questions, and it was a fantastic discussion. I'm sure we're going to pick up on many of these issues in future webinars. And thank you very much indeed, audience, for your questions. Sorry we didn't get to tackle everyone in detail, but that's the nature of a good discussion. Very, very few final comments from me, very, very quickly, just to say that the Kenya and Nigeria hospitals are open, particularly Kenya, only one more week to go. So if you're in Kenya, get those entries in. Look out. Techers and Cyber OSPAs open in due course. Get ready for those too. Just to let you know, the Irish OSPAs takes place on Wednesday, the 30th of March. There's a thought leadership in the afternoon, and then after that, we've got the presentation of the Ireland Outstanding Security Performance Awards. I did have one about the UK, which is next Thursday, but it's sold out. We've sold out in thought leadership in the afternoon. We sold out in terms of tickets for the award ceremony in the evening. Finally, then, just to say, we won't be here next week because it's the UK OSPAs and Thought Leadership Summit in London. But we're back the following week with influencing opinion to improve perceptions of the security sector. What should we do? Let's think about how it came up today, didn't it? This whole thing about how we change perceptions. Where do we need to go from that? That's on the 3rd of March, 2 weeks today. Thank you once again to all of you. Thank you very much indeed to Sarah in the background, who looks after us all, and you don't get to see her. I really appreciate the panel for your insights, really appreciate the audience for your questions. And until we meet again, wherever that will be, stay safe.